be joining us. I'm ready, I think. So, let's see. I want the gallery view for that, and then so that if you hold something up, I can actually see everybody. And I also have to make sure you can actually, I think I can do it by that. So I have this lovely unit right here in front of me has two cameras, one that tapes to my PC or my laptop, and then the other one goes down here, and then I have one in front of me, so I have like 4 different camera shots. And with these, the way they're stacked, I'm like, oh, am I in frame on the PC? Am I in frame? So it's really fun when we do the cording because it gets a little crazy. Because they have to be brought way up. And so what's everybody, are you guys working along with me, or are we just watching?
Nope. I'm going to try to work along with you if I can.
Okay. Well, and if you, but I'm not going to race through this. If you get stuck on a spot, I'm going to stop. We're going to make sure that everybody kind of stays along with each other. Just like we do in person classes. So, this is, somebody let me have their little ornament, and they said, oh, you don't need to do the cap so that it can be around. So I took the round stitching, or the stitching off the cap, because when you turn anything over like that, it's going to have a thick edge if you leave it. So I think the first thing that are you guys kind of set up to do your cording, or? Because that's usually where I start everybody.
Semi.
So we get our drill. Or do you guys want to learn by, I can teach you by hand as well. All up to you. I can do both. So I
Talking, Kelly, about the cording that's going to go around the ornament.
correct. That is correct.
Okay. All right. That may be a little challenging to me, but I have one of those little cord thingies that you can work with. How much?
They don't work.
But I have the printed custom quarter. It's a little.
Yeah. How about you just watch what we do, and then you can make your cording the way you typically do, or you may actually go, yeah, I'm totally doing it a different way. So the whole thing with cording, a lot of people have a hard time with cryonic. A lot of people have a hard time with the cryonic cording thing because it just, once you take it off, it doesn't stay twisted as tightly as you need it to be. So we're going to start by opening up our skeins and just taking the paper bits off, okay, and find your knot and get everybody open like that. And you will need your masking tape or tape of some kind. If you don't have masking tape, we'll work with it. And you'll need your fishing line, and you'll need your hot glue gun and scissors. All right. Oh, I love it when there's one of these skeins that's kind of crazy and is doubled over on itself, and you have to make sure that it's going, all the fibers are kind of going the right way, or else you'll have one little long weirdo that just is like, woo! So now right through, all right, I'm going to hold it up like this. It looks like this. And where the knot is, you're just going to chop right through it. Okay. So people ask me all the time, why? What's your formula? I'm not going to do math. I know that this cut in half is 36 inches. It twists down to 28 inches. So pretty much every kind of ornament, except maybe some like larger trees and maybe some pointy stars, you can do with this 28 inches that you'll have once we get it twisted. So I want you to count out 10 strands, okay, of each color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then we just lay that up above. Like that. And then I always am brilliant and mix up the color numbers. I usually put the paper back on it so I know which color it is, but I have so much of this, I guess they call it Tiffany green, that I don't need to worry about it. And then I just fold it in half and make a little slip knot so that I can pop it open again in the future. So I'm going to do the same thing with my yellow. Just going to chop it right at the knot. I use all kinds of fibers. I do not have any preference. Usually people want this. The place where I used to finish for, she always sent me pearl cotton. She sent everything. It's the only reason I kind of stayed with her as a store. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. And so I use yarn, and I use, the little cards of all of the sparkly, the neon rays and all of that kind of stuff. I've used all of that. Krynic. So there's one thing that you should know. When we twist these, we will twist the turquoise to the right. Then we'll twist the yellow to the right, or clockwise. Then we're going to put them together and we twist them back to the left. They're inherently going to want to twist back that way no matter what. It's just science. It's physics. I'm twisting you this way. So I want you to take your two ends, okay, and lay them in front of you and just let the tips hang off the front edge like this. And I want you to take, and the reason I'm doing this is because it allows you to have two-hand grasp. I'm taking about 12 inches, maybe 10 of fishing line. Of fishing line. What the heck? Why am I reverbing? Oh, I see. Somebody's got their speaker too close. Okay. Sorry. So, I'm like, wait a minute, is my speaker being stupid? Blame my own technology before anybody else's. So what I do is I make a loop like I'm making like you're going to put a knot in the fishing line, like when you're sewing, so that you've got this little lasso here. Let's put it in a dark area. See? Like that. Because then you can just slide it right over and use two hands to tighten down And then we're going to make it into a knot. One more. Okay. All right. So it looks just like that. Okay. So I actually, last time I didn't use the vise that I'm using today, but I put my other vise someplace and I had two say, I went, wait a minute, where'd that go? That's what happens when you clean your, your room. Everything is not where it usually is. So, but it will illustrate why I started doing cording the way I do it now. So I have a fly tying vise that I use, and it doesn't open any more than this. So because of that, and yes, I, was too cheap to go and buy a regular one. If you got something, you use it. So to get all of this fiber in there, well, number one, masking tape failed me every time. And so I decided that I needed a thinner profile to fit it in there. So you foof out your little fibers that are stragglers. Oh my gosh. Here I went and told you guys, make sure you've got all your stuff plugged in an email. And I do not have mine done. So I'll tell you why while it heats up. So when you use the Krynic cording machine or things like that, what happens is, or if you use masking tape, the pieces that aren't touching the tape or aren't tightly knotted in, they will continue to twist and untwist. So you never get a really good cinching down on this. So even after you've twisted it, it's not a good thing. All right, while this is being stubborn, oh, I can still keep going about. So we glue it so that all these fibers stay together, and we can not only fit them in our vise. My husband uses the vise to smash them all down flat. I have tiny jewelry flat nose pliers so that you can smash them without using your fingers like I do. But it also comes in handy with the fact that it's such a thin profile once they're smashed that when you go to put it between the front and the back, it just slides right in there. Compared to you have a big roll of masking tape, it's, not as conducive to bulk or less bulk. So then the third thing is that as you're pushing it down in, if this fishing line breaks, your cording won't go boop and pop out and make you cry, which it's done that to me before. Let's see if we can, oh really? It begrudgingly comes out. So you inject it in the center and then smear it around the outside. Please be careful. Don't let it drip onto you. And then if you use your smashers, you put it down, or if you put it in your vise so that it smashes all of it, then I'm going to pop it off because it cools quite quickly on these pliers, and then I smash it again so that we have this lovely flattened piece. Now, if you don't have the smashers and you decide to use, I would rather you use the side of your scissors on the tabletop if the tabletop is conducive and it's not going to damage it. Okay. Then to use your fingers, but just wet your fingers like your grandmother used to do when she'd touch a skillet or something hot before, because then the glue doesn't stick to your fingers. And let me know when you guys are ready. I am gonna have to trim mine to get it into this lovely vise. There it goes. Now I put it pretty deep on the vise, which means I want that fishing line to be right up next to where it tightens down to. Okay. Okay. Now. How we doing? We good? Okay. So my yellow is kind of naturally on the right side up by the vise. So I'm going to keep that one to the inside. So this is the tricky part with recently with someone doing it with me at home. I usually use my blocking board, and I use push pins to put it into the board. And so then it became oh dear, that's not going to work for her because she had a lovely table she was sitting at, and there was no way she was going to put pins into it. So you can get, of course, they're not over here. Hold on. My little DeWalt's. So you can use the tiny DeWalt clamps that you can pinch right down on and press it right down onto. They're trickier to use though. They're a little more clumsy and you might have it slip out of your hand every once in a while. You need to pull 3 pieces of tape, please. Only about an inch. Don't go too crazy with it. Let's see. I stick it to something plastic. How many are for drill and how many are for hand, or do I just automatically do both? I'll do both. So what you do is you kind of smooth out your fibers. Don't go crazy. You don't have to go over the top. And when you put your tape on, I want you to kind of roll it on because it fits in. I'm just rolling it like I'm already twisting the cord because it'll fit into your drill better. So when you're using the cordless drill, you open it up from the front. Am I going tighter? Should be righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. There we go. All right. And you just put it right in where the drill bit goes. Okay? And tighten it back down. All right? So now we have to check which way is this turning. Okay? Because we want it to be going away from you to the right. And I'm pretty sure it's not. Oh, it is. Oh, look at that. Okay. So, if you are doing this by hand, you're just going to pull it, keep it taut, going to your right, and you're just going to start rolling it clockwise in your hands. But that'll be in just a second. I'll show you. Now, if you watch the drill, as I start to do this, I'm not pulling it forward. I am letting it bring itself forward because as it twists, this fiber is going to get shorter and shorter. Is that right? Going away to the right. Yeah. There it goes. Don't push it ahead because then it'll start to roll over on itself prematurely. And you'll start seeing little bumps, like little, And I always look right up here. When it happens, I'll bring the camera down. You can see it right there. See it? See the wobble? Right there and there. It's starting to turn over on itself. You know that it's tight enough, okay? That it's done. This is the part that's the challenge. Because if you don't really put it on there really tight, it fights to get back off, okay? Now, tack. I had to push everything out of the way earlier. This is one of the reasons why I don't use the drill, is because I have bad arthritis in my hands. This fights so much. You've got to constantly pulling to the right, or else it'll be a pile of spaghetti. So I grab it with my right hand and then I push it against the table to stabilize it with my thumb. And I put a tack right through the tape. Now mine looks a little loose. I'm not sure why, but it's okay. It'll be fine. And now we do it again. Smooth it out. Grab your tape. Is everybody okay? Feel free to shout out if you have a question. That tape is stubborn today. Okay. So now open it up. Put it back in. So if you don't have a blocking board, you could also just use a regular board, clamp it down to your table, like a 2x3 or 4, not even a 2x, a 1x4, anything that you don't mind putting a tack into, and just clamp it down and then put your vise, well actually your vise could help it stay down. That's got a clamp at the bottom, C-clamp basically. So there are ways around having to use a blocking board or something like this. This should end up approximately the same place where the yellow is. For some reason, white and certain other colors, you can't tighten them as much, and I think it's because of how they are manufactured. Or the processing that they do with it, the dye and everything. Wobbles. Yep, this one's not going to go as, it's almost as tight. Okay. My left hand, then I put it in my right hand. And I put my tack too close to the top edge. So the funny thing about pearl cotton is you can make twisted cording going to the left and to the left with the individual ones and then have them go right. But pearl cotton, like Kreinik will let you do that. Pearl cotton will not, because it goes against the manufactured twist that they've already done and it'll get loose and it is not pretty. So just FYI, if you find a fiber that you haven't used before and it doesn't seem to want to twist correctly going to the right, maybe you need to turn it to the left instead. Do left, left, then right. But we do it right, right, then we left together. So I want you to take your tape and you're going to kind of glide it behind it. I'm trying not to block the camera. And slide it down between the table. Okay, and I'm letting that tape hang down below so that I can just fold that little bit of the top over and then pull that tape up. Then I'm going to stabilize it with my thumb. I don't care about pulling that masking tape over right now. Take out your tacks. Grab it. Keep pulling to the right. Give it a quick wrap around. Chop off these bunny ears because they won't fit in your drill again. And something that I always forget to do, it's always wise to open your drill before you go. Only have one hand to use. And you put your end, hold on. Make the drill come to the cording. If you relax and let this go to the left, you'll find little bumps. Boop, boop, boop. It'll start to roll over on itself. So shove it in there and back to the right again. Okay. Now, right here on my drill is the button to reverse it and have it come towards me, which is counterclockwise. Okay, so you click that. Now, instead of it pulling forward, it's going to come back to the right, and then as it twists in its final twist, it'll start to pull forward again. So here we go. Then it kind of sits for a second, and now it comes forward again. And I over twist it. I'm going to get it even tighter than that. There. So they almost look like beads on a necklace, you know, like seed beads. And the reason that I do this is because it just aligns them better and keeps them really tight together. Now, don't just let it go. Loosen it. And then start to slowly let your left hand loosen and then your right hand loosen like you're walking it, and it unfurls and it's done. Now, I will show you how to do it by hand, and you'll be able to see the difference between this one and when it's done by hand.
I just have a quick question.
Yes.
About what you just did.
Yep.
So you're winding them to the right.
Yep.
Individually.
Correct.
And then when you put them together, you're winding them to the left. And then when you're done with that, they stay that way?
Yeah, they do. Yep. But if you've ever gone to the fabric store and you've gone to buy some pre-made cording, or you have some pre-made cording and you cut it, it will unfurl. So whenever we work with this, we either put a piece of tape around it and then cut it so it doesn't unfurl. But what we do during this class is we will take a piece of fishing line and tie it off so that it doesn't unfurl. So you always have to keep that, because it'll go, woohoo, I'm free and I'm going back to the way I was. So, you know,
amazing.
It is. And that's the magic that every time we do this, they're just like, no, it's not going to say, yeah, it does. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know why I'm worrying about it being 10, but I want you to see the difference when you hand twist.
Can I ask a question? Because I had an issue with mine in the drill.
Go ahead.
So I think I have like different tension on like the two different colors. So they're not like winding evenly. Like the blue is staying kind of straight, and then the darker blue is just kind of wrapping around the lighter blue. So I can
so you take it back apart.
Like all the way?
Yep. Well, just to the tape part. Like the taped ends can stay together. Just separate the two colors. Let it all unfurl. Okay.
like cut off the ends from when they were taped separately,
So
right?
you're going to cut off the piece that brought them together. So this is holding this outer one's holding it together. Leave the inside ones on.
Oh, I
So
cut them off.
you're just gonna take and slit that outer piece open so that you can literally just take the two taped ends and start again without having to add more tape. And oh my goodness, why are mine so mismatched? What did I do? 1, 2, 6. Yeah, more than likely, it's exactly what you said. You got it much tighter on the second one, and then the first one wasn't going to be able to support it. Oddly enough, I can twist the cording as quickly by hand as the drill. My hands are not strong enough, and most people in general are not strong enough to have the same kind of torque to get the same tightness as the drill. A lot of people, I just always do it by hand. I find it to be a little clumsy for myself, especially with my arthritis. And I have arthritis because I twist cord and I block and I torture them incessantly with the curved needle. So I probably should do that, but I don't know. All right, put it back in the vise. Now it doesn't want to stay. Come on, you. Loosen up here. Stay in there. I have had it come flying out at me from the vise end, pop back from my hands because I didn't have good control over it. It happens to everybody and doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. Oh, I need more tape. One of the things that'll happen if you do not allow it to naturally go forward with the drill is it will break. We found that out in a couple of classes. It just goes right in the middle and the fiber is just, you got to get a whole new skein out or hopefully have enough. So this time when you're doing this by hand, all right, let me make sure I can see it. I try to keep it at the top edge of the tape and I immediately start turning it away from me so that the tape rolls with the way we're about to roll. And now I'm using one hand over the top of the other hand, which there. And isn't that a lovely bruise I got from carrying a new workbench up some basement stairs? I'm so sorry. It's like, wow, yick. And really, when you stop, when you're doing it by hand, is when you quite literally cannot twist it any tighter. And it should come to about where my knee is. Well, maybe because I can't get it that as tight as that drill. So when you're doing it by hand, grab it with your right hand, grab the vise so you don't yank it out of the vise, and tug it to the right. Because sometimes it'll stretch it out a little bit more, and you can get it a little bit tighter. Okay. So again, putting my thumb on it. Demonstrating this gives everybody a chance to catch up. I promise you, it goes pretty fast. Okay. And again at the top, and start rolling it down. So I decided to use the fuzzy yarn for the cording for this person's ornament, friend of mine, because it's snowy and it's crystally and it's cute, fuzzy bunny. And you can see how wobbly, you can kind of watch it as it turns. It almost looks more wobbly than when you do it with the drill, just because I don't keep the same tension. Now, this is what you do when you have done it for a long time. I put my thumb on both of them, pop that, grab both ends, and then I put the tape on and let it roll. And it's just, I can feel it naturally wanting to roll over on itself, turning it to the left, back towards me. Yep. This is the one that gets my right thumb joint. So what I think it is, as I'm looking at mine versus the drill, is that the individual well, you'll see it. Okay, so this is by hand, and that is by drill. So it looks a little coarser. I don't know if you can tell that. To me personally, when I'm in front of it, this is a little coarser, whereas these, because we over twist them, they're lined up nicer. This makes a little thicker cording than the drill one, even though they're the exact same amount of strands. Okay, I've bored you to death with cording. So let's go ahead and get out. We're going to prep your materials. So now you want your iron and you want the fusible interfacing, which is the thin piece in your packet that you can see through, and it's bumpy on one side and smooth on the other. I used fusible interfacing on everything except needlepoint. It doesn't help it. It sticks to the back of the fibers and it doesn't help keep the piece square. All right. Oh, gotta wake my iron up because it's fallen asleep. So I am using a it's not a satin, it's a taffeta, I think, but it has a little stretch to it. Oddly enough, Hobby Lobby has really nice kind of heavy satins and shiny wedding dress materials that I can't get at my local Joann's, because my Joann's is just a small hub, because I live on Cape Cod and they don't let giant box stores in like that. So I get material wherever I can find it. eBay, Etsy. I need to, come on you, wakey wakey, do a quick press. And I always say, and I creased it. Look at that, dang. That the material that I use the most or am drawn to isn't the material, it's the right color. That's what dictates me what I do. Oh my giddy aunt, I did it twice. Oh, it's got a stretch. Irritating. round 2. So how I determined how big, when we're in class, I tell people to give themselves usually to the outside of their waist canvas, because you're not trying to conserve right now, you're trying to learn. So make it something that's easy to hold. And I am just going to, so now when you put your fusible interfacing on it, bumpy side down towards the back of the material, okay? And we press it, we don't iron it, okay? And move until all of it sticks down. But here's the thing. If it gets a little too hot, it likes to pop up. So when I'm done, I bring it over to a cool spot and I just let it cool off to the side. Great piece of glue, that would make my day. All right. So that, because then as it cools and you're pressing it, just rubbing it with your hand as it cools, then it will stick back down to it. If you need to take this piece off, just heat it up and peel it off. It will come back off. You might have to do it in like little bits to keep it hot, but it does work. All right, so that is our material ready. And I have my cording ready. I think the only thing I don't put it on is maybe ultra, like really nice ultra suede, because it can get weird pressing it, you know, because it is just, as a rule of thumb, I always use it. How you doing, Chris? I can't see her right now, so. All right, so now I want you to grab your needlepoint piece and your long scissors. If you don't have the little short nip scissors, don't worry about it. You don't have to have them. I just find them to be very helpful. Okay. Bunny. Now I want you to cut a generous 3/4 of an inch all the way around. And there's no need to be scared. It's the scariest part for 90%. Because they have been told over and over and over again, don't cut your canvas, it'll fall apart, it's terrible. What I find with people that have issues with it shredding around the edge is that they've usually cut in too close, and then when they do their darts, the darts are usually at too large of an angle. So pretending this is a ornament and you're going to dart it, they do darts that are big instead of little skinnies, and the little skinnies are what you want. And that's what we're going to do next. So now you're just going to start to dart and see how close I can get without it being too warped for you. They're just little skinny darts, and I'm going right up to, if not just one away, because we have to roll this over. I'm glad she did an open background on this because you can see where I'm holding my fingers. So when I bring this in, I'm laying this on my fingers. So I know how deep it is going in. If you're using these scissors, do not cut like this, where it's deep into, you'll cut right into your stitching. And while we can hide a lot of things, half of an inch cut in would be pretty tough. So now you're just going to keep doing darts. And as you do, keep turning the piece in your hand or it'll start to look like saw teeth on a blade, on a circular saw. So these are about eighth, 3/8, no, quarter inch. Yeah. Anyway, and it's at least a quarter up here. That's probably 3/8 up there. And so you just keep, no laughing you. I have someone in the back that's trying to be quiet and I heard a giggle. All right. So for the first two round classes, I didn't have any rounds to do. I had to just do a line. I painted on a canvas, made a circle, and did that. And it actually kind of worked because people could see where my hands were on the back side. So if I was using these scissors, the difference is you have to arch your hand ends up going like this a lot. So with the lower profile scissors, that's why I choose to use those. Plus, I find that the long scissors can, on fabric at least, they like to bend it instead of cutting through it. Okay, so now we're going to finger press this around. But don't just lay it over. I want you to take that first row of stitch and make it so it's flat. You're not rolling it behind, okay? You're not losing a row. You're just making it take that edge, because you don't want to see any white waste canvas from the front. The more you turn over, I shouldn't say the more you turn over, the more you can hide now, the less sins you have to cover up later, and you'll get a better dimension, the correct size for when you have to do your foam core. Now, it's a lovely piece, not saying anything, but this fiber is going to be a challenge around this outside edge. I don't know why. I'm not sure what it is. So just get pressing that all the way around. Definitely keep your little darts on the smaller side. Even if you have to do more of them, you'll get a nicer curve. Well, especially for a tiny ornament like this. I think this is maybe a 3-inch round. It's like nothing. This is why I did the templates, because that's why I bought a Cricut machine, so that I could do the templates, because people were coming into class and their pieces were so such varieties. It's like, how do you get a circle when you're in the middle of a classroom with a bunch of people? So now we're going to be using the iron again with the steam. And I see you're still darting. Don't worry. I'll hold on for a second.
While we're waiting, can I ask a
Sure,
question?
hit it.
Do you or will you have a class for non-round ornaments?
Yes, I had one up for shapes, and then nobody had signed up for it in the first week. And then I had the idea that if you do get the class, if you do the heart class pack, you will have you get a heart-shaped canvas on 13 mesh that you can stitch up quickly. So it's the exact same one that is in the booklet. Hold on. So this is the ornament, and it's the exact same size, and I'll be using the exact same pattern that you guys would in class. I did it on 13 mesh. I, of course, don't. Someone's bringing me some more 13 mesh because I used it for all the scrap painting class pieces so that people could practice on it instead of just going straight into the, but, and this is applicable to any kind of shape.
Oh, that was my next question.
Yes, because how you get the shape is right in the directions. Okay? And it's really what we're doing here, right? But you're just going to lay it face down, whatever shape it is, and you trace around it. That's the other reason why you have to steam these edges down for that. And then you have to come in 1/8 of an inch. And I'll explain that when we hit the templates in a minute, because we have to come in 1/8 of an inch for the piece that goes on the interior of this, because our foam core is 1/8 of an inch thick. So we have to accommodate the thickness. So if you decided you wanted to do a poofy ornament, quite poofy, then you might have to do 1/4 of an inch all the way around, or even more. So you have to allow for the loft, or else it's just not going to pull around the board at all. So when I'm sure other people, they're like, well, why don't you just take away? Because this is just what worked for me. But also it helps when you're trying to glue these around the foam core. It really helps that they want to naturally go back to the back and not just kind of stay popping up. So we lay it stitch side down, and I'm not pressing on it. We don't want to press away our stitches. Come on, get steamy. But we want to reset the sizing. So you use this lead edge to pull those in, pick it up, turn it away from you, and make sure that pinch that side over so that it's all nice and smooth. And then we do it again all the way around. If you didn't block your piece, this is where we can kind of do a little cheat. Even if you use a frame, you should still block it, because your needle going in and out, your thread tugging against it, it makes all of that sizing relax. And it can be more difficult to finish in your hands just by being able to hold it if it's a little wimpy. So this is going to reset the sizing that we have in this. That's why it's so sturdy, is it has a lot of sizing in it. So pull it in, not pressing, just letting it steam. Turn it around, make sure that all of that waste canvas is going over. See, I have some, whoever designed this or painted it used black Sharpie, and that means I have to bury it. So that will be pulled around a little bit more than I usually would. Okay. Now I'm going to bring it around. Make sure that's all pulled around. Round ornaments typically are not actually round anymore, especially if people basket weave. because the tops of your stitches are on the upper right and the lower left, and the diagonal falls against the side, and it looks kind of like a little ovally. So to get the roundness, that's why we use a round template. And the foam core is the support. So here's how you cheat at blocking. Do not touch the stitches. You're just putting it above it, letting it steam for a second, which I'm going to steam the camera because I just did that. And then you pull it with your fingers and make sure that your horizontal and your vertical look straight. Don't look at the outer edge. Look at your stitches and make sure that everybody is where you want them to be. You might have to shift it a little with your hands, pull it. This is so tiny, it's kind of hard. But, and then set it over in a cooler spot where it's not so steamy so that it can, I'll put it over here so you can still kind of see it, to let it cool and let that sizing set again. If I have a particularly stubborn piece, typically it is with wool or silk and ivory, because wool has a memory, and if you're an emotional stitcher, which a lot of people are because they do this to relax, but they might, traffic. So especially if you're not using a frame, then what, or stretcher bars, what's going to happen is that's going to have that memory, that tightness, and it always wants to keep shifting back. So when that happens, I block it. And if you've seen my videos on blocking, you know, you've got all the tacks all the way around and you've pulled it and you've steamed it. And then I use, not many stores have this in there anymore. I had to get this on Amazon, and not the starch. It's got to be the sizing. I tried the starch when I couldn't find it in the store and it didn't work. And you just do a little psh, psh, and that's it. You don't soak it. That's how you end up with the dyes running. Anytime you get anything too wet, the steam has never done it to me, and doing my little spritz over the top with this. But if it's really shifty, if it's really bad, then you're going to spray it, give it a quick steam over the top, let it sit for the day. And then maybe before you leave at night, you do it again or go to bed. And then do it again the next day. And don't take it off the board until you're ready to finish it, because any kind of humidity can make it go, ooh, I can move back again. So I a lot of times just leave everything on the board until I'm ready to hit it. Templates. Let's get out our templates. Now, I apologize. I was not as kind with everybody's template packet as my daughter was with this one, and actually put them in order so that I could sort of see. Too big. So this ornament has an open stitch and it doesn't have a lot of stitching on the back. So I'm going to use the one that is only about a 1/16 of a inch away. But anybody else, if you have a basket weave, I want you to be able to see. Let me try to get it centrally, because this is a little odd. You can see it's not perfectly round. But I want you to be able to see that much design all the way around your piece. If you get it too small, then you're going to be pulling stitches around. Too big, but there's a way to test that in a minute. You know, we got that Goldilocks factor going on. It's got to be just right. All right, where's my cutting board? That. It eludes me. Where did I put it? Well, this is why we have tons of mats. Just didn't want the ginormous one. Okay, so now you're going to get your foam core. And your X-Acto knife and a pencil. My mechanical pencil is here, and my foam core's on the floor. So when I do, oh crackers, did I just put my template that I wanted to use away? I did. Once we do this bit with the templates, we don't use them again. So once you get it drawn on, you are more than welcome to put it away. So now this is really important. You're going to trace around it, right up next to it, right? And put a big old X right in the middle. Okay? And we put our template away. Then we take our X-Acto knife.
Okay, Kelly, now I don't have a large enough template for my round, so can I use my round to make one?
Do you have a bowl in the cupboard that is big enough to be your round? Because can I see a picture of your ornament?
You may. Here we go.
Oh, it's that one. Yes, yes, yes. See if you can run to your cupboard and see if, or yeah, it's probably a bowl.
For something. Okay,
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
go do that. Hang on. I have to
Okay.
keep up.
I'll get them cutting and then we'll get back to you. So now you're going to take off the majority so that you can cut around it more easily. Oof, hit the camera. Okay. Make it as easy as possible on yourself. Don't have a bunch of board that's scattering everything all over the place as you turn it. I usually push my tip of my blade right into my lovely mat. And holding this very hard with my left hand. And I keep my hand low so that the angle of the blade is getting as much in there as possible. If you keep it low, then more of the blade is cutting than if you hold it straight up. Then it's a tiny, tiny tip. So I have my hand literally, let me see if I can get back here far enough. See how it's laying on the table right there? So you're just sliding it around and take a chunk off if you need to. Take another one off and just keep going around that line. I think I grabbed some. The reason why we put an X on the back is a lot of times you'll cut right on that pencil line and you won't be able to see it. And that is the side, the pencil line side, it is the side that is the most perfect circle. Because as you're cutting, and I inherently cut a little angle in so that when I go to bevel in a minute, it's already slightly beveled. But that side that's down at the mat is going woo down there. It's not giving you like a die cut that's just going to chonk right straight down through. Okay? Then we take our foam core piece and we put the X down. This is how I hold my lovely blade. Let's see if I can get a better angle. Okay. When I bevel, I let my hand kind of be across and I have it, if you can't hold it like this, hold it however it works for you. But it's easier to pull it towards you and turn. And even if you got to go off and then kind of saw back in, be gentle. Let the blade do its work. Let it do its job. It should, if you try to force it, that's when it'll start to get all popcorny and annoying, and just relax and let it cut through. Your hand naturally kind of rotates like this, unless like some of the ladies in my classes that have had some injuries or arthritis, and that's why I say you do it however it works for you. And we're just taking off, I can't see it, that edge right there. I know I've gotten blurry because I'm too close. Oh, camera. Okay. Why do we do this? Kelly, why is the craziness why we do this? Because this is going to help us, number one, to get a more refined look to it. But also, this side, it will be nice and thin now. So we'll be able to push against this and push the gutters together and make it so that we don't have to have our cording hiding a ton in the gutter, or have to have a really thick cord to hide our sins. So you can take your finger, I use the end of my X-Acto, and I just kind of burnish down any of the kind of hard wonky parts that I didn't cut very well or very straight, and try to make it look sort of like a lovely little cookie top. Although my cookies never turn out quite this nice. They're always a little weird shaped. Even my sugar cookies. Enough about my cookie issues. Okay. And you're going to pop open all that work that you just did. This is your test. You're going to put this inside to make sure that you have a small enough piece of foam core. And if you don't, then you take it back out and you're going to make it smaller. So on one side, grab here. I think mine's too big. Oh no. I can see stitching on both sides. Okay. If I can see that sitting on that edge, that means it's great, because we don't want to have the white waste canvas be seen from the top. All right.
What if it has a little bit of wiggle in there? I mean, it's like minuscule, but I wouldn't say it's tight necessarily.
No,
Like
that's good, because when you, so what I want you to do is when you pull it around like this and you're pulling, I take my fingers and I kind of pull back and push with my thumbs. If you're seeing a lot of stitching pull behind, but see, you don't have a border, and you're not going to lose anything by having a little of it pulled around, so you really don't, it's fine.
Okay.
The one thing you will have to be careful, though, is that it's going to naturally just want to fold over because it's got a little gap in there. But this is how, if anybody has done any upholstering or fabric stretching of any kind, you secure one side and you pull against the other once you, so this is what we do next. Hot glue guns abound. And we do not use the felt on this side because your stitching covers your sins of the thickness of the stitching of the bevel. On the back side, you can feel it through the material. That's where we use that felt. So smear ever so little. Just smear just a tiny bit. No big dollops. If it big dollops, use the tip to smear it out some more. Okay? And then we pull this down. Be careful. It should be cool when you go to push it down. I don't want you burning yourselves. All right, so now that we have one side secure, I'm going to grab this, and I'm kind of pulling against it, pushing that thumb that way so that I can make sure to see that stitch, and I'm going to put a little smear on the opposite side. And I'm going to pull that around. Now the other beautiful thing about that bevel is if for some reason this is a little tight, it's going to pull the edge of that paper back so that like that edge is going to kind of bend over to your will of pulling, and you'll still be able to fit it in the piece. I'm hoping.
Kelly, is there ever a time when there's something between the ornament or, you know, the front, the needle point and the backing? Like is,
You
or do
can.
always, okay.
It's a preference. One of the things that we could have done, if it's a very open stitch, maybe you want to put something sparkly behind it. Maybe you want to put a gold fabric behind it. You can absolutely do that. If you, if your concern is because the stitching is touching the foam core, I don't really
So mine has a very open stitching, like
There
it's,
you go. Yep.
so, there was one little piece of like stitching that I was seeing, but I just,
Yes. So that's part of the thing with open stitches, that when you go to put it on, if you put a color behind it that matches that color that you're seeing, then you'll and say it's a dark color, then all of the white areas, you're going to be able to see that dark fabric through the openness. So, yeah, if you're a big traveler when you're, stitching instead of tying off and then coming back in, a lot of people will jump from one spot to another. Just once you get it cinched down, take a second, cut some of them off before you finish it. I don't ever do that because it's not my piece and I'm not allowed to really do that. It's like, I don't know what might unravel, so I just don't tempt fate. So now we did north-south, so I'm going to do east and west. Katrina, let me know if you found something. You did?
With you, so I'm doing the bevel.
Okay, very good. I
Okay.
don't want to get too far ahead.
Yep, you're okay.
All right. And it's smaller than your round, right, Katrina?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it is.
Okay, good. So she's going to be putting hers on a purse. So basically, once she gets hers wrapped around, she's done. But
I hope. I'm actually scared to death of all of this, so I don't do this. I'm coming back to all this. So yeah, scaring the bejeebers out of me.
you're fine. No, it's all good. I think you and I are going to have a separate call so that I can tell you how to put it on your purse.
Absolutely.
do you have a class for that too?
If I had one to put together, I absolutely would.
Because I want to do that too. I've got a wicker purse.
Yep.
that I
And
want to
so
put
I
together.
do have a tote video, but the wicker you do a little differently because you literally kind of weave, you bring your needle through to tack it on, because even my ever-loving Fabri-Tac that I love so dearly is not going to give you the security you want.
With a ribbon, right? You weave it through with a ribbon?
No, I use the
No?
fishing line, and I use my needle and just kind of feed it through.
I've seen some beautiful ones
That have been done with ribbon. Cool.
that have been done. I don't know how, but I've seen some beautiful wicker bags with
Yeah.
needle. Oh, they're beautiful.
And they're not hard to do. They're not hard to finish. The biggest challenge is just being able to feed it through the wicker. But it also depends on, usually they're lined, so then you got to kind of take that into account. And you really just need to tack it in a few places. It doesn't have to be crazy. Okay. Ooh, look at that cute bunny. And I don't see anything. Now, any of these little weirdos that are sticking up, I'm going to kind of just put my glue tip and grab it and then push it to the back so that, not so bad now that we've got the foam core in there. Pulling it around and having something, I think, on the back side of that open stitch has made it so it's a little happier. Okay. Pull the glue bits off. Get your foam core again. Where'd I set it this time? So this time, we don't use the template because the template's too small. It's 1/8 of an inch smaller. We need this to match the front. And what you'll find is that as you trace around it, I take like a 5-degree angle because I use a mechanical pencil so that I can pull that lead up in so I don't lead the edge. But that means that that little plastic extra that's there is going to make it be too big of a circle. So I put it in at like just a slight angle. Not too much. Again, Goldilocks principle. Too much and it'll be too small. And if you have a thick material, like a really upholstered velveteen, maybe you want to do it at a higher angle because then your circle would be a little bit smaller. And don't lick. Do you see how I'm holding this down? There's a reason why. As soon as I move it, I mark which way is up. Because potentially this is no longer a perfect circle again, because maybe there's a knot near the edge and you couldn't get it down. There's a little boop out there. When people look at it, they're not going to see that little jut out because it looks like a circle, and once you have your cording on, it buffers it all and you don't really see it. It's hidden. Okay, here we go again. It's just a lot of repetition from now on. And cut right on your line. Of course, any of these little jut outs, go ahead and just do a nice smooth. Don't try to make all little jaggedy edges, of course. I think I have some of foam core that's a little thicker than I'm used to. I don't think I'm using the same foam core as you. I have a scrap bin that I just grab stuff out of, you know, little bits, because you never know. Need to shim something in a brick. Okay. Ta-da! And so I don't always keep track of what's in. There it is. Like, where did my felt go? Now we turn our arrow side down. And we bevel. So the bevel gives it a nice grade to the edge. If you've seen people that use a Cricut with mat board to cut their mat board out, my opinion is they should bevel the edge because it gives it a refined edge. Anytime you see them, you can kind of tell that they have like a bluntness to this end of it. And it's just, I prefer to have a little graduation to it. And this time we'll do it again. Doo, doo, doo. It's funny, the last year I did a class on a shaped ornament, and it was by a friend of mine's granddaughter, and it's this crazy unicorn that she drew, and it has this really long body with these weird legs, and it was a great class because it showed that you can do pretty much any shape. So we're going to take How you doing with the beveling? How you doing, Janine?
Doing great, Kelly.
Oh, good. All right. I didn't want you struggling in silence there.
No. I had it shut off because my husband was up there for a while.
That's okay. I think my favorite was one time I forget what we were doing, and all of a sudden we hear like this weird grumbly, and this woman goes, "That's my pug. He fell asleep next to me on the." She goes, "That wasn't me." It's like, it's okay. It's adorable. So I'm gonna take and put just the tiniest smear of glue here and put it down on the felt. What I found in teaching in person is, and then put it over and make sure you can't feel that glue underneath it, okay? Is that people pick things up and put them down as they're working on them, and then the felt was shifting and it was becoming, they'd cut it and then it shift, and so this just stabilizes it, keeps you from having an issue. Now, you don't have to do this. I'm doing this so you can kind of see my fingers better. I am gripping right around this edge so that I can put my scissors right on my fingers to help lift that felt up close to that outer edge. It's going to look a tiny bit bigger when we let it go, but that's okay. I don't want you cutting in like this because it'll be too small. This helps by us pressing it up like that and cutting it along that edge. It gives us the grade of the foam core the bevel. So it needs to be a little bigger to come around like that. All right. So either use the back of your scissors to pull it up or use your fingers to support it so it pulls it up as you go around using that upper edge. And the reason we put the arrow in the middle of that is because when we put our fabric on in a minute, it's going to cover up anything on the edge. Yet another lesson I had to learn the hard way. And then sit there and pull tabs until I found it. Unless it was velveteen, then it was easy because it has a nap and I always make it go down. All right. Fabric. We do not put glue to keep the fabric in place where we want it. If you have a directional fabric, this is your time to figure out which way you want it to go. And I have a trick for, I think I'm going to do mine horizontally, so like that. So I have a little trick to help us when we go to put the front and the back together. It helps for keeping the straight lines of a plaid, or when you're doing a monogram. So when you put the two together, the monogram isn't slightly askew when you turn the ornament around. So we're going to do the same thing that we did in the beginning, which is you can either leave it laying down like this, give yourself a healthy 3/4 of an inch all the way around. Okay.
I'm glad I don't have to do this once. That's all I can say.
Oh, does that mean you're not going to do it again?
Oh, no. In terms of I don't have to do the outer circle.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
No. I didn't do it again.
Oh, good. I'm like, wait a minute. Do you not like it?
No, I love it. It's just, I'm way behind you guys, but that's okay.
All right. Well, we'll
I'm trying to put two together, so.
well, yeah, because you are you like practicing by making a backing for it?
I will probably put like some cloth, a circle, that makes sense to me, doesn't that to you?
Nope.
Before I Cause I'm not certain you're right, cause I thought I glued it on, but apparently you're saying no.
Well, what
It's gotta be
happens with the wicker is
Mhm.
it's not a flat surface. So it
Right,
might hit and miss. And so you have to anchor it on with a few tacks of stitching.
okay,
So go ahead. What were
I
you?
may have to practicing law and pay people to do this. But it's fun, I'm having fun.
Oh, good. So, well, don't worry. We'll get together with
I'll
that.
make it work.
So now I want you to notice I have my pinky holding this fabric up, pushing it. When we had the needle point had a defined edge that we had to get up to make our dart. Fabric's more forgiving. I want you to stay 1/8 of an inch away. And the reason why I'm pushing it up against here is if I leave it like this, I could accidentally go too deep, and then you're going to see little white tick marks all around the edge, and you're going to go, I hate this, and you're going to cut another piece and either wrap it over the top of that one, which might make it too thick, or steam the top of it and pull it all off. So this time though, I want you to give me 4 darts only and stay 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. Okay. And by doing 4 darts, it gives you 3 tabs. You're only gluing the middle tab. Okay. Pull it up. Now, just like we did before, we turn to the opposite side. What we're doing is we're getting this material stabilized so that it's not going to shift, because this was developed as well for the same issue that was going on with the felt. Okay. That. And when I pull it, I'm pulling it tight. Okay. So you can see how tight. It's kind of got an indent there. Now we go east and west. Do the same thing. Push that up with your fingers so you don't go too deep. More skinny darts is better than less. Oof, look at that pile of fluff there. Tell that's a polyester of some kind. A little smear. Push it over. Now, don't worry, take your time, because I am going to be doing an extra step that you will not be doing. Okay. Now, once you have everybody stable, the 4 sides, you can go around still holding this up and dart, 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 dart. Okay, so I can see I have to go and buy a wicker bag from Marshall's.
Well,
And
trying to not be obtrusive, but here's the circle.
yeah,
Okay.
very good.
Okay. Which is going to go somehow or another right here.
Uh-huh.
So that's what to finish it, that's what I'm gonna need help with.
Right.
These are easy to get. You can get them at Marshall. They're like the bags are like $15 or something. They're not expensive.
So my daughter is a lower level manager at one of them. And every time I go in there, she's like, "Why do you stand here and stare at the purses?" And it's like, because I see projects. That's what I, I said. I think, because I'm a designer as well. So I see things and I go, oh, that could look cute on there too. Oh, that would work. And she's just like, you're crazy, Mom. So, yeah, I know.
Katrina, that's beautiful.
Isn't it?
I love it.
Now, do I need to put like a little piece of fabric or cut another template to cover the rounded, this part back here?
You're not going to see any of it because,
Okay, so I don't need to do
because,
that.
no, you don't.
Okay. Now, I missed out on the cording. I'm gonna figure and see, my husband brought me this drill, so I'm gonna try to do the cording.
Well, how about when we get everybody done, I'll stay with you and we'll do cording together, okay?
Okay.
Does that work?
Okay, that sounds great. That sounds great. Yeah, I was behind, so.
No, it's all good. And just, yep.
Kelly, I'm a quilter.
Yep.
And I do a lot of applique on quilts.
Yes.
There is a low tack glue that applicators use for this purpose. And it's just one little drop that holds the fabric in place in the center and it doesn't show through, especially if you have SF-101 under there.
Okay.
As far as with what I'm doing right now?
Yeah, like when you started,
Mhm.
you held it, you didn't have anything to tack the center
Right.
of it
And
with.
there are, but I try not to really overwhelm people with product.
Oh.
I try. It's like, because I know there's a lot of people that they use the sticky back on this. It's a double-sided sticky tape, and then they just put it over to it. And I'm antiquated with the way I do it now. Again, it's just one more thing that as soon as you put the word art on or quilting on, they jack the price of it up, and it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying.
I know.
Yeah.
I got a whole room full.
Yes.
I know.
I tell you, when the Shape Flex, they changed it about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years after I started finishing. It had a much smoother finish. You literally had to look at it to see which side was the front and the back. You could kind of see a little shine to it. And I was very disappointed when I could feel the bumps. It made me not a happy camper because that's one of my pet peeves with that featherweight one, that you can see through certain silks. It's just ugly. Okay.
Well, I buy that stuff by the bolt.
So do I. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if I can't have the old, I still gotta have something, and this is better than anything else. So, this color is close, but it's a little bright. It's closer to the iridescent that is in the bunny. Boy, that camera doesn't make it look, the one that I'm videotaping with on my PC does not make it look like nice colors. So I have this overlay that I got a million years ago that I use extremely sparingly. That's like little snowflakes. So I'm going to put this on while everybody else gets caught up. And if you have a cotton quilting fabric that is beautiful, batik, but it's just, doesn't have as shiny a finish or needs to look a little more upscale, fastest way to do it is to get a nice chiffon that has a little, glitter in it, or just something to kind of jazz it up. And I still kind of do pseudo darts with this. So, every time I use this, it makes me laugh because back in the 70s, there was a product called Artex. And they were fabric pens, but they were an oil base. And they looked like a tube of paint that had a little nib on it and a needle that went up into it. And people used to make lots of different decorative things with Artex. and we had a Santa and 8 tiny reindeers that was on this kind of netting tool that went up the staircase. And it just makes me laugh every time I see Tool. It's just like, the 70s. So when you guys get this video to refer back to, you will not see everybody else in the picture because I record it separately so that you can get, it looks just like one of my videos that you would watch on YouTube. And it stays up as long as YouTube will let me keep it there. It's not going anywhere. How's everybody doing? Muddling along? I can tell when everybody's busy. Now, if any of you would like to learn how to sew it on versus glue it on, I am ready. But I will probably teach the glue it on first so that they can get working on it. And then I can show you how to do that. You just gotta give me the high sign. I'm not sure I have, oh, see, you know, this is the problem. I didn't have my chat window open. Oh, she must not have had her speakers must not have been turned on. I did not see Chris's message to me. I am a bad Zoom host. I will have her sit in with the other one.
No, it's okay. I fixed it.
Oh, you're there. Oh, it's
Yes,
you.
no, I've been
Oh,
here.
your name is so
Yeah.
tiny that it's.
It was operator error. I'm good.
So I was doing that once, and it was for one of the virtual trade show. And I'm like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Is your... And finally I look down, and it's me. And it's just like, okay, mortification. Wonderful. I know
I'm
enough
too
about tech
old.
to get in trouble.
Well, I'm too old to be doing all this new techie stuff. So.
I love it when I'm telling my 22 and 23 and 24-year-old daughters recently, I'm like, so I'm doing this, and they're like, but I can't get it to do, Mom. It's like, what? You should know this. You're being grandma now. It's like, that's not funny. But certain things, until I started teaching these classes, I wasn't doing Zoom at all. And that was last year. So
My kids are in their 40s, and all of this stuff is beyond them now. They're all into that. It's
that's awesome.
It's too young for me. Yeah.
Okay. So here comes the front and back lesson. Alright. So we take 4 straight pins. Okay. Now, luckily, I have a straight across right here that I can mark. if you don't, just find a stitch line and follow it straight across. So now you know where the stitches are horizontal. All right, now I didn't, oop, another bent one. Doggone it. So on the back side, I'm going to look at my arrow. It's a little more difficult because I don't have, now I can't see my horizontal lines on my fabric. So I'll try to use this way. So here, I'll use the netting. Won't be as easy, but and approximately there. Okay, so this is if you have, you would follow this across if there was a monogram here or a plaid that was directional. Okay, now about, do not put glue in the middle at the top because that's where our cording has to go, our loop. So about a half an inch in, put a lovely bead of glue. Not too much, Goldilocks principle. Put too much and it'll squish out like jelly. PB&J. And we leave that open so that we can put the loop base down in. Ready? So now we put this on, and then I'm going to spin it slightly until the pins are parallel. Like that. And then hold it down for just a minute. Okay. All right. Now, see how there's a little, this is a little bit bigger than our front? That's because I put two kinds of fabric on. And we're going to make it kind of magically disappear. I mean, it's not so big that it's horrible, but let's just show you what those bevels are there for. I'm going to push that edge and bend it right towards the front. That gap is gone. We still have enough room to sit our cording on, but cause see, I mean, that's a pretty big gap. And if it doesn't want to pull in this way, then push the front side back to the back. You can literally kind of pinch them together. But I want to do the back side in around because it is a tiny bit big and I don't want it to go out beyond. All right, ooh, there's that. And it's starting to look like an ornament. All right, so now with the cording I made earlier, I'm going to show you the next step, but my mat has to be flipped over. And I'm showing this to you this way because, again, it's kind of how I teach it in class, and there's a reason why we're doing it this way, because people were not leaving enough room. So with the end that is the tape, okay? Put that like that. I'm going to get a piece of tape. Give yourself, you know, a couple inches. Now, I'm going to set that off to the side. I'm going to come up here, 1, 2, 3 inches. And I'm going to bring it down like this, okay? And hold it there. Let your tail on the table. Put the piece of tape down like this. Okay. Now you get your fishing line. And you make the loop again, like you're beginning a knot. And you slide it under. Pull it. So I'm just sliding it right underneath here. And come down to the 0 line. Okay. And tie it off once. Twice. Okay. Then we're going to pick this entire piece up like this, and we're going to wrap it around the piece. That didn't fold very well because I had a little too long of a piece of tape.
Kelly, were we supposed to cut a little bit of the fishing line for that?
Yep.
Or are we like, okay.
Yep, you need the same as you did in the beginning. When you lassoed the two ends together, you should use about that same amount. And make the So I'm going to grab both of those, including the fishing line. And there's the fishing line right on the 1.5 mark. And I'm going to cut it so it's got about 1/2 inch of extra foof below. People were taking the tape and tying the fishing line right next to it, which then doesn't give you enough fibers to do the foof, which actually that's a little long. Maybe we should have gone 1/4. Okay, because now we're going to foof it, and we're going to glue it, and we're going to smash it, just like we did in the beginning. The reason why I do this style of, loop is because if you've ever seen a loop that twists over on itself, it's because they went up, they did it all in one piece, and when they came around, they didn't relax it in their hands so it could untwirl, and then it just stayed twisted when they made the loop, and it won't ever come out. But I do have a trick for it. It's the bead that we're going to put on at the end, and then we smash it. I also think it's just easier for people to handle it when you're beginning without having to try to do it all in one piece. I did it that way for years and years and years. So now holding it like this, 1, going right next to that, 2. You don't want to have big points out up here because your 2 pieces of cording are going to come in and butt right up against those. Okay. All right, so now I got to do it for real with my twirly fuzzy stuff that I'm using. Tape end. But I think I'm going to just do him 2.5, I think. I don't think that small ornaments need a giant hanger on it. Stay. The fuzzy stuff is challenging to work with in certain aspects, but it looks so cute on something like this. I really like it for the band ornaments that I designed because it gives that foof element against the glass. Mhm. There. Now, because I do not want to have my stuff unfurl, I'm just tying another piece of fishing line around it. Instead of using the tape that you guys used. Okay. So then you cut your excess off. And I cut that pretty close, so I'm hoping I don't go through that fishing line that I just did. I think I did. I didn't. But I left an awfully tiny nub. See, this is why you don't do what I just did. And you give yourself that extra. Wouldn't be a video of mine if I didn't mess something up. And then we smash. All right, and then we do the arrowhead again. All right. So next, you're gonna need, so who's gluing and who's sewing? Anybody want to give an opinion on what you were preferring to do?
I'm gluing.
Okay. Well, I'll show both. Don't worry. You still with us, Janine?
I am.
Okay.
I just cut my bottom a little too big, so I'm gonna make a smaller bottom after we get done.
Okay. See, and that's, so,
It seemed like the right size, but it's showing on the sides of the,
so so the front is bigger than the back?
no, the back is bigger than the front.
Okay, so what you can do is take your iron, lay
Yeah.
your backing piece like this, take your iron and just steam over the top of it and grab a pin and just go boop, 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 and all that hot glue will usually it'll just open up like a flower. They'll all let go. So then you can just
Oh,
cut
okay.
that piece of foam core down without having
Yeah.
to do a whole nother
Take
one.
the piece, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that big. I mean, but it's noticeably big. And it's a shame because this piece came out beautiful.
Right? It does. It looks fabulous.
I really love this piece. Birch trees, so.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, that's so cute. So this is where my top is. I'm gonna open it up just a little bit with my dowel needle. One of the tricks with using glue is to leave it laying on its side if it's not really full, because then you don't have to constantly shake it back down into it. And you're gonna inject some glue right inside there. And I just wiped through the spider booger web that it sometimes leaves because mine is it's not as new and it kind of starts to dry. And so we just grab our needle and I put it into the side right above the arrowhead and just help it push it down in. Okay, like that. And then hold it up in front of you and make sure it looks straight. It hangs straight with your stitching. You want to look at the stitching. Still not over far enough. Okay. All right. I think that's it. Now, we are going to take a pin. We are going to grab, let me see if I can show you, right through that top stitch. I'm putting it straight back in, so it's grabbing this cording right above the knot and the glue. Right there. And then kind of pull it up so you're wedging it and angle it down in so it goes into the back. Don't let it pierce the back because your material might leave a pinhole, or your material might not release that pinhole even if you try to rub it out. And this helps keep the front cinched back and tight so you have good glue adhesion. All right, next, I always go from the left around to the right. It's because that's how I sew it on, because that's how the twist lays, and you are always pulling your needle up on the back side so you're not pulling it up and you see the fishing line on the front side. And it's just a habit. So I'm going to inject a little more glue. Should listen to myself when I say lay it down. And then again, we're just sliding that arrowhead in, getting that right above the glue, and shoving it down in. And then we're pushing against it to put it tight up against the loop. Now take another pin. Make sure that you're going through this one as well. And we're pinning this one because we don't want to pull it as we go along. We want it to stay put. In this case, less is more. If you have to come back in and inject some glue in behind it, I would rather have you do that than to have beads of glue oozing out all over the place. So when I say, and I kind of angle, I hold the material towards me so that if it's going to dribble this way. And I have a little split in this bottle, I think, so I have a directional flow from this. I want you to put the thinnest smear of a line. Okay? And I did what, 2 inches. If it looks like it's too thick, of course I grab a pin that's like, a centimeter long. Grab it and drag your pin and have pull down in between the 2 pieces. All right? Then you turn it to the front and you look at it as you lay it on. Okay? And then we ended there, and you just kind of rub it down. And not with the pin that you just smeared glue with do you put it through, but you grab a fresh pin and you put it straight into it just to hold it and to show yourself where you ended your glue. Sometimes that's the spot where I end up having to come back in because I've put the pin a little further than the glue. And then there's like a no glue spot there. Okay. And then bring it to the front so you can see what you're doing. Yeah, we went to there. And push it on. A lot of people are definitely glue haters out there. But I don't do glue shaming because it's getting very hard for me to pull a needle anymore. And this Fabri-Tac, I use it on the Limoges boxes, and that stuff just doesn't like to let go. So while I would love for everybody to be able to sew it on, I am realistic in the fact that not everybody can. So you do this all the way around until you get 1 inch away from the end. Now, I was gonna just go ahead and half sew and half do glue and then half sew, but I'm afraid that this fuzzy stuff is going to pull differently. So I have another piece that I'm going to show you. You're getting to be a little goober, buddy. What is with that? I really like this to work with this particular glue because it has some body to it. It's not runny. I hate E6000 or whatever it's called because it's just, it runs so fast. And this dries so clear that you really can't see it. And it doesn't have that chalkiness to it that some other glues have. And plus some of them, I mean, this takes no time to dry. This over here, it's already dried. So, you know, we can pretty much take that stuff out when we get all the way around. And I go back over everything and kind of, All right, so I'm going to pin that there. All right. Then I'm going to take the extra and I'm going to bring it around, and I'm going to take a piece of fishing line and tie it around this one cord approximately where that white pin is. I'm just using that as a point for where to bring it up to. Kind of like the 0 line is where you guys tied your knot off at before. And if you need me to hold on because you're gluing, let me know, and I will slow down.
I think I just need like 30 seconds, Kelly, to catch up with the
Yep.
gluing to the end part here.
No problem. So I will prepare for a little sewing demo. I think it's really hard to show how to do a curved needle like this. So when I put a knot in, I do a fisherman's knot where I bring the tail through about 4 times, and then I grab the knot again. Well, first I bring it around, and then I put the tail through again. Okay, like that. And then I cut it off. I don't cut it all the way to the knot because I don't want the knot to unfurl. And then dip that in the hot glue so it sets, and you're able to keep that from pulling through the needle point when you're doing that. How you doing, Taylor? You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, so we're going to tie it off. So I got my fishing line, and I'm going to tie it off. Now, you don't want to tie it off way over here because then you got to try to cram all that way down into your ornament. So you want to make sure that you're tying it off like right in the center of where your loop is for a stop point, tie point, whatever you want to call it, point. All right. Then, because I want to save this little bit of fluff, I don't normally save the excess, but when it comes to my fuzzy yarn, because I'm not sure I can find it again this year, because they get rid of all the good stuff. So my friend was saying, oh, I can't find that out here in Arizona. And she goes, it must just be you locally. And I was like, oh, dang, I better go pick up a couple more of these. Maybe they're phasing it out and I just got lucky. Okay. So we do the same exact thing again. Foof it, glue it, smash it, triangle it. Now, take that pin out, take that pin out. Okay. Get back here. Even on its side. I don't know, maybe I didn't have it on its side. Finish putting your beading of glue on. Take your point, turn it. As you're going around, you should also be aware that I kind of twist mine tighter as I go around because it inherently wants to untwist. And sometimes the twists on this side look shorter than the ones on this side. But you can usually see it as you're going, and if it was really bad, I'm sure that you would. And I'm pushing it down in, but I'm kind of manipulating it because this point, there it goes. And I have to pull it back up just a tiny bit because it wanted to go way deep down in. And there you are. Ta-da. Now, I don't know, yes or no? It can come off if we don't like it.
That's adorable.
Isn't that it? She did such a cute job with that. I like this. It's a surprise.
It really looks like, I like that.
Okay, so take 2 pieces of fishing line. Why 2? Because 1 just ain't enough. If you have a paper clip, a small paper clip works just as well. So we're almost using this like a needle threader. So I'm putting the fishing line through, bringing the ends together like that. I'm putting all of this hopefully up through the bead. Now this bead has a large bore hole. Bugger. You just gotta be difficult. There we go. And you pull it up straight up ahead like this and just slide it right down on there. I'm afraid I'm going to pull it out, so I'm not trying not to manhandle it too much. Ta-da. Now, you see how it got kind of twisty when I put it in there? Just pull it and straighten it out. I think I got to push it in with my dowel needle.
I love it.
It's very clean.
All right, hold on. It really, I love the beads. So when I was teaching at Thistle Needlepoint, Karen, the owner, was like, "Have you done this yet?" I said, "No, I have not." And so if you have one of those twisty issues with this, your cording keeps twisting over, this takes pearl cotton, the 10 and 10, you can slide it right on, same way I just did that. And what you do is when it's on there, you twist whichever one is twisting it over. You kind of can play with them, and they're holding so tight together that you can take that tension off and they'll stay as a nice loop. So it was a nice way because somebody in the class had an issue with that. So you see that dent right there? Bring your cording right up under closer so that it doesn't look like, oh, I'm gonna have to put some more glue there. Sometimes when you put your tip down in there, it knocks off the glue that's up towards the edge, and you have to come back in to secure it. Like that. And the other reason to like fuzzy yarns, they hide a lot of sins. A lot of sins. Okay. So, quick demo on sewing. You're going to do it the exact same way as far as I was having a sort about the other day and put them all in the same spot. As far as how you're going around it. Where did I put that fishing? Well, I'm making another piece of fishing line. And I'll trip over that other one that I already tied the knot in later. So 1, 2, 3. Just make sure that when you take all of your pins out, keep going back and making sure that everything's got good contact, that you can't see any pop out spots where you can I spy down inside. You don't want that. Now, when I started doing this, I used to not use these rubber gripper things, and then I started losing all of my fingerprints because I just couldn't grip it well enough, and it would slide through my fingers. And so I was basically giving my fingers burns. It just starts to smear your skin. And the extra set of glasses because I can't see up close anymore. And so I like to start by grabbing a little material. I always start it out ahead because sometimes it's just too difficult to put it in behind. I like to see where it's at. So you can sort of see it there, right? Yeah. So there's where it is on the front. I'm going to bring it in between the pink and the green without stabbing through it, hopefully. And when I do that, I'm coming way back here. So it's like a big back stitch. So then I come up in the front. This is the way I show beginners. And I'm actually thinking of doing a curved needle class where we work with not jumping right into needlepoint so that you can kind of learn how to maneuver it and things like that. And we're going to grab a little bit of the back like that. Not a huge jump there because we want to have the stitches sort of close together. So this is the step, this is the point where I went, oh, now that I glue the front and the back together to hold them together, I don't have to sew the edges, pin it together, then sew the edges, then sew the cording on. sewing the cording on secures, does that in one fell swoop. So I'm taking this fishing line. This is where it's going to come back into so that the fishing line will slide in between, going between the green and the pink, piercing right? And here's where my fishing line is here, and I am coming back to here. So that back stitch gives you about 1/4 of an inch of fishing line going into and holding this down in. Grab another bit of material and just keep doing your little back stitches. If you were to just go straight across, what happens is, and not go back, a lot of times you'll see the fishing line show on the back side. So we just come in like this, come back here. Now, you can do big jumps. It's not that you can't. It's just that if you don't want to take a chance that some little person or somebody that might be manhandling it pops up a little bit and can see down in and see your waist canvas, then, you know, keep them a little closer together. You also have to be careful of this velveteen kind of gets a pull mark on the back when you pull too tight. And grab a little more fabric in the front, and that's it. I know, yeah, Kelly, sure, that's it. But after a while, you learn that, so I have a leather pad in here. That helps me maneuver and helps drive it in. So there's that. So I bring this in kind of straight. My middle finger is angling it to where I want it to go. Now I have a friend who basically just uses a straight needle that has a tiny little curve in it from her bending it so much when she's trying to make it do what she wants it to do. Whatever works for you. You can also, at this point, I had a bead on this and I actually pulled the loop out, taking it off, is that you can just go back and forth running through the loop. I'm very important, apparently. To make sure it's not going anywhere. Okay, be quiet. You can use this to tack down the one that you just made, to make sure that, you know, nobody gets too heavy-handed with it and yanks out your loop. I like to secure them when they're glued because it is the weak point, honestly. So what I do is when I get to about here, when I got it all put down in, I come back through that one that's the bend over twist that's headed down in, pull on it like that, grab some fabric, and just kind of go back and forth and back and forth. And that's just going to anchor it. And my favorite part of the sewing aspect is I then grab this, and this is not a stitched piece, but I do it in pretty much everybody's stitched pieces. I bring it up through the needle point, and I'll grab that stitch, and I'll make the knot 3, and then I make the knot right there, but then you bring it in up to the side somewhere, doesn't matter where, and pull that tail through. Always leave a long tail. And what happens is that pulls that knot right in and it disappears right in amongst your stitching. And then you cut your little tail off right above your stitching. Boop. And then it's in there for good. So now we have to talk to Katrina about cording. But I understand if you guys don't want to hang around. I hope that that was a helpful class for everybody. And if you have any questions, I will get uploading this later. Hopefully it'll be up by tomorrow, and I'll send you a link in the email, okay? All right.
Okay, Kelly, yeah.
And really, contact me anytime. If you need help, I'm more than happy to just be your wingman and make sure that you're okay. All right?
Thank you.
You're very
Enjoy
welcome.
it so much.
Good. Take care.